Good morning, my name is Craig Parker, and it is a great pleasure to be here at Vienna Comic Con.
As first question, you originally provided the voice for Frodo in the storyboards of Lord of the Rings. How did you take the decision that you didn't get the role for Frodo?
I suspected that I wouldn't be playing Frodo. When we did the storyboarding, I think there were about 12 of us, so we all did a number of voices. So I think I was Legolas as well, the Ring Wraiths, various kings. We knew other people were probably going to play those.
Do you have an experience from the Lord of the Rings set? I mean, there are probably a lot that you will always remember.
There are many kind of moments, and also many moments that I've totally forgotten because it was so long ago. But I do remember the very, very first day we were shooting. We were shooting on a flat, which is like up in the trees somewhere. It's like a big leaf. And because there's so much trick shooting in getting the scale right, so, hobbits are this big and we're all this big. And at one point, I'm not tall, I'm 5'10". So at one point we needed me to be taller, and they were trying all these different things. And it's just a very New Zealand way of thinking. I went, look, I can do this. And we grabbed some polystyrene. Do you call it polystyrene? Or, foam, packing foam. And I just went, let's cut these bits. So we had big square things and just taped them, gaffer taped them to my shoes, and thought, this is brilliant. Suddenly I was 6'2". And we went, this is going to work. And we started shooting, but the ground was all, and I just went smack. I think I hit the boys, the hobbits, and I thought I was going to break a leg or something. And as that was first day, I was convinced that was it. I was going to be fired that very day. But they let me stay on, which was good.
You got a little bit of home advantage in soccer terms when it comes to the whole terrain and stuff like that.
Yeah. So, and the lovely thing was the crew working on it had New Zealand is a very small place, and I already knew and had worked with a number of people on the crew, so it was a lovely place to go to work.
In your career, you did a lot of movies and TV shows. How did you transition from TV shows to movies, or back and forth between them?
I've probably done a lot more television than film, but really from the actor side, they're all the kind of same thing. But I probably prefer television, just in the sense that you work a lot more in television. You get to have longer, the storytelling is stretched longer. You have much more time to grow characters and to play with characters. And you also, just on a day-to-day level, you are shooting more scenes every day than you do with film. And a big sort of epic film like Lord of the Rings, you can be sitting around for most of the day. You can be sitting around all day in costume and not do anything. And while it's very nice and people treat you well and they bring you coffee, it's not the reason you want to do it. You want to be up there, playing with other actors and doing scenes. So, yeah, I think television's my favorite.
Mm-hmm. You also did a lot of voice acting, even in Lord of the Rings, and also I think Power Rangers.
You're going to say Power Rangers?
Yeah.
Look, people go, oh, you're in Power Rangers. I've never seen Power Rangers in my life. And my friend Jim was the voice dialect coach, but also did a lot of the recording. He did the recording for the monsters. So every season he would say, just come in, and it's going to be different this time. The monsters are going to be different. And every monster would end up being like, and you would spend a day in the studio screaming and just lose your voice, couldn't speak for days afterwards. So I believe I have done a number of monsters. They probably all sound exactly the same, and they all sound like someone shouting in a microphone.
The second part of the question was going to be, would you like to do more voice acting? Did you enjoy it?
I love doing voice work. Maybe not doing shouty monsters, but there's a lovely freedom with when you're in a sound booth recording a voice. You're not having to worry about blocking. You're not having to worry about hair and makeup, costume, all those kind of things. And when you play a scene, you will hopefully have moments when you feel the air thickens and it just works. You know that this scene is going to work and everyone is working together and it's going to be great. But But there is always a sort of ambiguity, I think, with full performance. But when it comes to voice, you can hear the mathematics of it, and there's something very satisfying about that you can walk away from something going, that's perfect. And there's not a lot of moments in life that you can go, that's perfect. But yeah.
Another voice acting question, since we cover video games, do you play video games yourself? Is this something you're interested in the future?
No, it's such a huge part of entertainment, and it's such a huge industry. But I've never been particularly. Many years ago, a friend came and stayed, and he had a Lara Croft. But this is
Tomb Raider.
I don't know what box it was on, but and it was like, oh, what's this game? And we started playing, and it was a terrible addiction. Like, it would be 4 a.m. I'm still going, I just need to save Crystal. I've got to, and she would die, and then I'd have to go back. And thankfully, he didn't stay too long and took his game with him. But it was like, I can't have one of these. If I have one of these, then I will not get sleep, and I will. So I'd play Monopoly on my phone. That's as gaming as it gets.
How was your experience over the years with accents? Like, I think it's probably already hard for British actors to get rid of the accent or do an accent. How was it for you on the sets?
I grew up in Fiji and probably had a very old school kind of 1950s English sound to my voice for some reason. So when I got to New Zealand at 10, I probably spoke like that. It was like, hello, and promptly was beaten senseless. And lived in New Zealand, but also we would do American shows in New Zealand, so we all started learning the American accent. And I think the rest of the world learns American because it's such a global force in entertainment. Often terrible, like some of the first things I did were just terrible American accents. But I live in the States now, so I'm pretty good with American now. I can sort of pick where in the country the character's from and find the right accent into there. And I grew up with radio as a kid, so all the British accents, the regional accents in England and UK are really familiar. So those things are quite fine. And I talk about the sort of mathematics or musicality. It's something lovely when you can hear an accent and start speaking. And I don't know how the brain does it, but often there'll be like one sentence that keys you into a particular accent, and then somehow the brain just maps that and does everything else. So as long as you don't think about it too hard and you don't make the performance about the accent, so hopefully it works.
Can you give a small example of your original accent when you grew up?
It probably was like that. There was I don't know. I've lived in so many different places that wherever you are, you kind of slide into that. I live in the States now, so I talk like this there, but I say water. I hate tomato, so I will say no tomato, because if I say no tomato, they forget it or something. So there are certain things like water, tomato. When people ask my name there, I say Craig instead of Craig. But yeah. And then sometimes I just start sliding. If I'm in the South, I just slide into a Southern accent in the States too.
How did you originally get into acting? When did it first occur to you that you want to be an actor?
I think I I was probably a sort of mix of show off and terrified of life as a kid. But I do remember going to see my sister in a play, and this is in Suva, Fiji, the playhouse there, which would have been, very, very simple. And she was in Peter Pan. She was playing Mrs. Darling or something, I don't know, in Peter Pan. And they flew, and I knew that they weren't really flying, and there would have been ropes. It wouldn't have been super high tech. But I remember that moment of feeling so just overjoyed with how wonderful it was to see, this people flying in front of you, and I think that has always stayed with me. That kind of absolute sort of magic of theatre, the make believe that's shared in a group, And then I had a wonderful drama teacher at high school, and Catherine Willens, and she was just one of those spectacular human beings and teachers that, you know, if you're lucky enough to meet someone like that in your life, they see who you are before you are, and they just help you through. So I did 5 years with her through schooling, and she would organize a lot of extracurricular things. So she would, if there were workshops or things happening out in the world, she would find them and take us to them. Or and I think our final year, and then my last year at school, there were just 3 of us in the class. So she fought that we could all, you know, do this together. One was a writer, 2 were writers, particularly, and myself. But yeah, and then now there's nothing else. I'm totally unqualified for anything else.
You played some villains in your TV shows and movies. What would you say makes a good villain, and how did it come together that you play villains at all?
Villains, I love the villains. The villains are so much more interesting than the heroes, because the heroes, to play anyway, the heroes have to, in sort of classic telling, the hero has to be solid. They have to be constrained by the rules of, you know, what it takes to be a hero, and they can be tempted, but they always have to be good. Where the villain, what I love about the villain is the villain never knows they're the villain. The villain always thinks they're the hero, and the villain is often the most damaged person, the person who was bullied, the person who, whatever reason they become a villain. So that's always fun to play, and a villain can, you can go anywhere with a villain. You can lie or you can tell the truth, and it doesn't matter. You know, you can do anything. You can be gentle, you can be cruel, you can be whatever you want, and it's just really fun. And they often have great costumes and good wigs and things like that.
Is there a role during casting where you got rejected that you were really
endless
devastated about?
Every single one. It's the worst bit of the job is, you know, taping. Now, you know, the days of auditioning in a room mostly gone, and sort of you do these tapes often in your bedroom or, you know, some spare room in the house, and hopefully a friend is there reading with you, but often it's, you know, you've got your phone set up over there with someone on FaceTime doing the words, and it's just awful and silly, and it disappears, and you generally never hear another thing. And the heartbreaking thing is every time you do it, to be able to do it well, you have to invest in it, you have to fall in love with the character, and you have to kind of understand it. So by the time you get to do it, you are in love with it and you want to do that job so much. So that always hurts. But there was a show, Armistead Maupin wrote these books, Tales of the City, and it was redone a few years ago, and I was auditioning for it, and I got through to sort of the final couple of guys, and they flew me to New York, and it was going to reading with Laura Linney, and I wanted this so much, and I loved these stories, and I went into the audition, and I just was terrible. I was so nervous, and I'd worked myself up that I couldn't do it, and I'm standing in the room just crapping everywhere, and I could see the look on her face as she's going, "Oh, I wanted you. Oh, you're terrible," and that broke my heart. That was awful. I had 3 days, 4 days, 5 days, 2 weeks of just misery after that. But yeah, it's you get used to the rejection that happens, but hopefully you get, you know, 1 or 2 jobs along the way that makes you forget it.
Small Spartacus question. The first main actor was recasted. It was a special case because not much TV shows have that case where the main character gets recast.
Yeah.
How was it for you and the team, the crew?
It was all very, very sad. Andy was a remarkable man, the first Spartacus, and after season 1, he was having treatment for cancer, and he really wanted the show to go ahead. He didn't want everyone to wait for him. So he talked with Stephen and the production and said, look, if there's any way you can do a season without me, please do it, and I'll go and get well and come back. So they did the prequel, which I think is a remarkable piece of television. So the second season, or the first season, however you look at it, was shot without him. And then, unfortunately, the cancer came back and he couldn't join us. So there was a casting process of looking at probably about 14 different men were all flown out to New Zealand, and myself and a couple of other people would read scenes with them, and we sort of taped with them. And Liam was one of the first we saw, and he was so skinny at the time because he had just done a show where he was playing some drug addicts, and they went, look, we think you're great, we can't promise you this role, but if you stick around and you work out and you eat 7 meals a day, we think there's something great about you. And he, bless him, he did it. He, with no promise of work or no promise of getting the job, he worked himself really solidly. And there was something about him. Other great people came in, some people who were huge, some people, all different types of actors. But there was something about Liam that just kind of stuck through, and he eventually got the role. So, and he approached it with such dignity and respect. I think he didn't try to be Andy. He didn't try to sort of, but he came in and he claimed his view of that role. And I think we were all very aware that Andy wanted the show to continue. He wanted, the crew to pay their mortgages. He wanted the success of it to continue. So it was very much, he was also very much in everyone's mind as we shot the rest of the season.
As final question, do you got any special advice for young actors, voice actors, etc., starting out?
I say I never give advice, but then if someone asks me, I'll give them all the advice in the world. I think I think it gets harder and harder. I think we're at a very strange time in the sort of the global industry for work, and AI and all those things will radically change the industry. But if you cannot do it if you want fame and fortune. You're an idiot if you do that, because most likely you won't have those things. And it's one of the professions really that you have to need to do it. If you can do anything else, go and do that. Do this as a hobby. But if it's the only thing you can do, then you'll find a way to do it. You may be miserable. You may make no money in your life. You may be terrible, but if it's the thing that calls you and makes you do it, then you'll find a way to do it anyway. So, and don't be a dick. That's the biggest thing, is don't be a dick, because everyone remembers. You behave badly heading up, people will remember, and the person you are rude to will turn out to be your producer or your writer or your director, and have respect for the people you work with.
Okay, yeah. Perfect timing.
Thank you very much.
Thanks.
My pleasure.